Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome to this roundtable as part of WTIN's Innovate Textile and Apparel Virtual Trade Show. I'm Fiona Harron, the Technical Textiles Editor and Team Leader at WTIN, and I will be moderating this session today on challenges of PPE production, where we look specifically at face masks, a key component of the new normal we're now entering into as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And all of our speakers today are playing their part in helping to tackle the global shortage of face masks. So we'll get to hear all about that. And on that note, let me start by introducing our panelists. First, we have Jordan Schindler, CEO of the biomaterials company New Fabrics, which brought the North Carolina textile industry together to establish a copper mask business called TheraMasks. Also joining us is Sarah Keneal, International Key Account Manager for Hygiene and Medical at Hermann Ultraschall Germany, which established a mask task force to supply its ultrasonic welding technology for the production of masks. And our third speaker is Sebastian van der Loo, a textile entrepreneur at Goetze Group Germany, which is leading an initiative called Fight COVID-19 to build a European supply chain for FFP2 face mask production. And finally, we have Mike Murray, Chief Technology Officer at Vita Group, a leading producer of polyurethane foam products, which has pivoted its production lines to manufacture face coverings. So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining me today. And as you can imagine, over the last few months, the bulk of WTIN's coverage has been centred around PPE and face masks. And in fact, I believe this sector is expected to top a global value of $7 billion this year. Something that none of us, I'm sure, could have predicted this time last year. So Jordan, if I start with you, your company is a great example of one that tackled the face mask shortage head on by launching a new venture with several industry partners. So can you just provide a little bit of background on your core business and why you decided to start producing copper masks?
Absolutely, and thanks for having me on, Fiona. It's nice to see you. So our core business is around this idea of simplifying health and wellness. It's this idea that instead of having to take a pill or use a cream or a patch, what if you could just get dressed in the morning? So our business enables controlled delivery of medications, vitamins, supplements through your clothing. It's anything from pain relief medication in socks, knee sleeves, arm sleeves, to melatonin in pillowcases and sheets, or even anti-cellulite built into yoga pants. And all of these products last for 25 plus washes. So you're able to get that same dose as you would get using another topical product. And so we are in this smart materials, advanced wearable space, and as a response to COVID-19 and really just the demand from our local communities. So it's your elderly care facilities, your police, your fire. They just didn't have any masks or face coverings. And so we felt uniquely qualified to be able to go after PPE and try to make an impact. And so we've all read about the shortages of N95 masks where they're disposable. The doctor throws it out after each use, and sometimes they go through 15 or 20 of these masks a day. And so our solution was, why can't you create an antimicrobial reusable mask? And so we created TheraMask, which is infused with copper antimicrobial yarn. And the premise is you just wash it after each use. So it's good for 60 wash cycles. At the end of the day, you throw it in your washing machine. And so we're supplying these to anyone from hospitals to government, police, fire, EMS, just general consumers as well. And the overall need then is a lot less masks because you're not throwing away after each use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Mike, your company also took the route of pivoting your production, as I mentioned earlier, to manufacture face coverings. So can you also provide a little bit of background on Vita Group and then tell us more about the face coverings you're producing and who you're distributing them to?
Yes, thank you, Fiona. Yes, like you said, we also pivoted our production lines to produce reusable face coverings. So our background's in bedding, furniture, healthcare, automotive, where we make polyurethane materials. And what we've been doing is taking that technology, and we also had over 2 years experience making face coverings for the agricultural industry in order to protect products. So we took our infrastructure, our R&D teams, and our background in these products already to really make sure that there was a face covering that we could initially protect our own teams and people with, but then we've now started supplying that more widely. And actually, one of the hardest things that we found early on was for a face covering, actually understanding what sort of certification or accreditation was actually needed before launching. There are the PPE specifications, and they were clear, but there wasn't really anything around face covering. So, we worked with both the PPE certifications, but also with the World Health Organization guidelines. Pulled our R&D teams together over a sort of a 12-week period to work on both new chemistries, new designs, new lamination technologies, and we produced a face covering that, while it isn't medical grade, it does have 90% bacterial filtration efficiency, which is greater than the 70% that is often cited in the new SEN working group standard, as well as the French and Belgium standards. And as we heard earlier as well, making them reusable was really important for us as well. And we might touch on it later, the amount of face masks and coverings that are being predicted to be used around the globe at the moment. But, compared to a single use, having a product that we've now specified for 10 times actually gives you that same level of bacterial filtration efficiency, was really important for us.
Definitely. And Sebastian, we spoke back in April initially about the Fight COVID-19 consortium to build up a European supply of FFP2 masks. So can you provide us with an update on progress?
Yeah, Fiona, thank you. We did a lot in the meantime. I mean, the last 4 to 6 months is tremendous what we achieved with our partners. As you know, our first goal was to set up an immediate response with our partner Spolastic, with which we developed an FFP2 mask that could be sewn and manufactured with normal sewing machines. So to have an immediate response, and from the very beginning, we know that this was just to bridge the gap until automated production would be again available in Europe. So in a step 2, we did find a cooperation partner in France, BioSerenity, who is helping us with scaling up production, automated production. We are now around about a 12 million FFP2 mask a month. So that's a significant number, I think. Next to that, and thanks also to the media attention we received with our initiative, we are now involved in different initiatives in Germany, Austria, 2 in Scandinavia, where it is not just the supply of products at the moment, but also setting up own production lines, so to get self-supporting in their needs for FFP2 products. And last but not least, we are still fighting for the government funding in Germany to set up an manufacturing facility for non-wovens PPE products at a university in Germany that can be used in non-pandemic times for research and development, and can be transformed into production facilities if there is an immediate need for PPE products. So a lot of things are going on, but we see progress, so that's keeping us going on.
Excellent. And Sarah, how is the mask task force going? And can you just explain why Herman's ultrasonic welding technology has proven so vital to companies during the pandemic?
Well, thank you, Fiona, first of all, for inviting me. And also thanks, Sebastian, for your elaboration. I do know BioSerenity because we support them to increase the output and the product quality as well. Well, the mask force still is really active, and we still have a lot of projects going on in that field. We continuously try to provide the best possible support and also have quick response times, because that is really vital at the moment to respond initially and to provide support same day within the next couple of hours. It really changed our way of working. Furthermore, we want to contribute to contain the spread of COVID-19 by means as much as we can. Herman ultrasonic technology, but we can increase the reliability of the process, increase the output, stabilize processes, and ensure that the masks that enter the market are of good quality and that they are safe, because we have seen many not safe products coming in from Asia, for example, that are not even filtering the way they should. So we ensure that also in Europe we have a stable product quality, safe products, and we work with governmental initiatives as much as with new players in the market, and they all start from zero, and we try to give them the support to ensure that they have profound knowledge to produce in the best possible way, that the masks that enter the market are proven and good and filter and safe the person who wears those masks. Also, a lot of our long-term partners like machine manufacturers in the hygiene market modified some of their lines to make production lines for masks, like in Italy for the Italian government. We have one hygiene supplier who builds machines on a daily basis, and we have, I think, 5 technicians there at the moment to support that. So we try to keep going and support everyone who wants to work in this global team to fight COVID-19.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Now turning to the attention, should I say, to the title of this roundtable, I just wanted to discuss some of the key challenges that you've all faced establishing your ventures. So Jordan, starting with you, what are the biggest challenges you faced establishing the TheraMasks business, and what lessons have you learned along the way?
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of lessons, I think, for a lot of us in such a new industry that's emerged so quickly. I think Sarah and Sebastian hit the nail on the head with a couple of them. It's all about certifications, right? We're all here because we want to make the best possible product. And yet there's really no unifying body that has standards for reusable masks. So first and foremost, it was going out to trying to learn and educate ourselves as much as possible. And here in the US, there's 6 different categories of masks, and they all sort of overlap and blend together. And especially if you're trying to make a reusable mask, which I think we need right now, it's not very clear on what those standards are. You have anything from people using a N95 and reusing it to people literally using a t-shirt to cover their face. And so it's things like filtration and antimicrobial properties that we really wanted to prove out and validate. So we were fortunate to get into this business fairly early on. So we were able to work with Nelson Labs, one of 2 or 3 in the country that's able to certify. But as you can imagine, they just had a massive backlog. So any iteration and change, we want to funnel back through our testing partners, but it sometimes requires a month or 2 months heads up to get some of this data back. So it's not so easy as in normal times where you can get very quick data, rapid iteration, and move on. So a lot of times it's working with the right partners and trying to put together the best possible product with not having all the information at hand, because people needed masks and they needed them desperately right away. So I think it's the certification question, and then it's also the forecasting has been an absolute nightmare. One day you have the U.S. government calls us and they need 500,000 masks, right? And they need them tomorrow. Everyone needs it tomorrow. And so how do you scale up enough demand to produce 500,000 and then the next day it might be 0? And so we're really trying to balance that. And I don't think anyone knows how long this pandemic will last. I mean, it's a very clear example of a black swan, right? Where you have a couple months of something that nobody predicted, where it's huge demand. And then we've seen it certainly fall, and then we've actually seen it rise again as states in the U.S. here have instituted mask mandates. So it's very difficult to work back within our supply chain to try to accurately forecast. So I think at this one, it's really just do the best you can and try to predict as best you can.
Mm-hmm. And Mike, I know Jordan there was talking about standardisation, and I know that's been a challenge for you as well, hasn't it, as you mentioned previously. So what steps have you taken, has your company taken to drive more clarity on these standards?
Yes, I think Jordan set that out very well as you spoke earlier. There were no standards to start with, and that made it really hard. It confuses industry, it confuses the public. So we've been working again with test houses, and Centrexpel in Europe been a very helpful partner for us. Originally, there were just the World Health Organization guidelines, sort of back in early March, and then the French and Belgium brought out their own national standards, and we saw that beginning to proliferate, which again means you've got to apply to different standards. But now back in June, the CEN committee have a working agreement for face coverings, which is very helpful. So we've been promoting that, we've tested, and we're now certified to that, which we're really, really pleased with. That gives us a benchmark. But there's a lack of guidance on the actual materials that are being used in the mask as well. So while the standards might give you a level of performance, does it actually mean the materials that are being used are also safe for use and prolonged use as a face covering? So we've been working with architects to make sure that all of our materials are suitable for skin contacts. Most of them are class 1, a couple of them are class 2, and that just gives us the confidence that working to the best standards we can find, we promote them at every opportunity, and that we have a product that's tested, that works, and that we know is safe.
Mm-hmm. And Sarah, I know you touched on your technology earlier, and I'm guessing that your company faces pressure from a technology perspective, because of course it's important that the machinery employed to produce face masks enables optimum quality. So how does Herman ensure that its equipment fully meets the standards required to deliver ultimate protection to the end user?
Well, I think there has been 2 key points which Jordan pointed out, which we are facing at the moment. And one point is what happens with masks. So what is the environmental impact? And the second point he pointed out was the volatility of demand. Of course, the volatility of demand and the current situation, we have to react really flexible and adjust. But in regards to reusability and environmental impact, already in the past, in the hygiene business, we faced the same problem. What do we do with single-use disposable products like diapers? And the same thing happens now for the masks. And what we do is we take the learnings from the hygiene market in regards to, for example, recycled products, recycled fibers, more economically friendly fibers, and develop in the lab stable processes to provide masks which are not only more economically friendly in regards to the production itself due to lower energy costs, etc., but also to ensure that we level out the sustainability of the nonwovens and the performance to ensure that the person wearing the mask is protected, but at the same time we support the production of masks which will in the long run protect our environment, because we cannot let that out of, we also have to keep that on mind. And this is what we do. Furthermore, what we try, I mean, this has become our daily companion, and a lot of us are wearing the masks for 8, 9, 10 hours in hospitals or in supermarkets. What we want to ensure is a safe product, but also a product that is wearable in regards to softness, no glue in the face. So this is what we try to do and what we try to improve every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Sebastian, I know that your team went through some trial and error at the beginning of the process to achieve the desired level of filtration in the masks. But since then, what else has proven challenging, would you say, for the Fight COVID-19 consortium?
Now, I think with all speakers, I need to agree. We're all fighting the same battle. Firstly, one of the biggest battles we did see in Europe is that there is no unity. We did see that in the beginning of the pandemic situation, and still today, there is no clear view on when a mask is to be worn and who needs to wear a mask. So every country is making their own regulations. And we as an industry need to battle this. We are asked to come up with solutions, but how can we provide solutions if we need to make 27 different solutions? So that's a real issue. Secondly, what Sarah just mentioned, people are wearing a mask 8 hours, 10 hours a day. If you talk with the experts and then you're talking with the FFP experts, they all know that a use time of an FFP2 mask product is around about 4 hours maximum, because the mask gets moist and also the wearer has difficulties with breathing. So this is also something scientists do not know what happens. For example, if people wearing on a daily basis mask for 8 hours, even if they change the mask after 4 hours because of the functionality of the mask. The discussion ongoing in Germany, do children need to wear masks if they go back to school? So we do not know how the breathing through a mask affects the development of lungs. So there's a lot of topics still not clear also to us, to an industry. And, you know, we talked today about FFP, PPE products. The surgical mask Sarah just showed is a medical device. So also from a certification level process, you have two different industries, what actually in a non-pandemic time have complete different supply chains. And I think this is the biggest hurdle, that there is no clear market strategy, but also governmental strategy, even on an EU level or the World Health Organization. How should we fight this pandemic? What is the best protection for a population? And what are the minimum standards? So, and I think that's the biggest challenge we have, because we know how to manufacture masks, we know how to get them certified. But in France, in Portugal, and I think in Belgium, Mike, if I'm correct, you have the social mask standard. Now, social mask, what's that saying? In Germany, nobody knows about this standard, or also Austria, Swiss don't use this standard. So there, for the end user, is a lot of uncertainty. So, and I see this really as one of the biggest challenges if we talk about supply chain, that you need to supply to so many different requirements that it is very hard to tackle all these different needs.
And Fiona, can I add on to that?
Of course.
Yeah, so many good points there from all the panelists, but one that just came to mind that has become very relevant for us is the consumer perception of it all. People aren't used to wearing masks and wearing masks all day. So as you guys are referring to, wearing them 4 or 8 hours a day, I mean, we get comments all the time from consumers, it's hard to breathe, right? And it's become sort of a political issue even as well here in the US. And so it's this total balance on making a mask that consumers will wear all day, but actually providing protection. So yes, of course you could make it more breathable, but you'll certainly lose filtration, which is really the whole point on creating a mask to stop COVID. And so you really have this divergent conversation with our customers on, can you make it more breathable? Can you make it more comfortable? Sure, right? But at what level of filtration is the right level to do that, right? Is it 95%? Is it 90%? And so you're really trying to make a product that protects people, but you also have taken into account consumer behavior. And if the consumer's not going to wear it, right, suddenly you're not creating any benefit at all. And so it's really trying to balance those two things. And every consumer is different, right? Some people just don't like wearing masks or don't want to wear masks. So is it better in that case to make a 50% filtration mask where they'll actually wear it, right? And I don't know the answer to that, but it's just things we get questions on that we're grappling with internally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And what I'm also interested about talking about is what happens after the pandemic, because many businesses, all yours included, have invested money and resources into face mask production. So is that worry about, regarding return on investment in, say, 1 to 2 years' time? So starting with you, Mike, have you thought that far ahead yet? And how long do you expect to be producing these face coverings for? I suppose it's a difficult question, really, isn't it?
It is, but I think I've got a clear view, and I think we've heard it with the panelists already, that I think face masks and face coverings are here to stay for the foreseeable future. I think they're going to become, much more a part of our lives in the West as they have become in the East. Whether it's protection against coronavirus, pollution, or any new pandemic we may have. And I think what we've seen with the amount of testing that we've done with the VitaShield product that we have, is we think there's a lot more to go. We think there's a lot more technology runway. We think that current PPE can be significantly improved from where it is today. And I think some of the other panelists have shown that as well with some of their innovations that they've talked with us today, that there is still a lot more that we can do as an industry to make better PPE. And just to echo, back on Jordan's point again, I think consumers are confused. I think, we really do need to help them say, actually, this, if you want to choose this product, it is tested, it is safe, and it works. At the moment, people won't be buying anything at all. And when you look on eBay or any platform out there, there are just so many masks, and it's very confusing for the consumer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And Jordan, just going back to you then, do you see a long-term future? I guess you do for the masks venture. And how will you continue to kind of develop your products?
Yeah, so I think building on what was said earlier and the consumer component of this, one of our biggest things is how do you get consumers to wear this, right? We have this huge political issue, probably more so here in the US than in Europe, but it's become a political issue to wear a mask or not, and it really shouldn't be. But you have this whole percentage of the population that doesn't like wearing masks. Maybe it's an elderly person that doesn't want to wear it, or maybe it's a teen that is worried about their skin breaking out. I mean, we have this new word that we call maskne, right? You're wearing a mask all day that causes redness, irritation, rashes. And so for us, we're thinking about how do we continue to innovate and make mask products that people really want to wear. I mean, people sleep in beauty masks, right? Women wear these all the time. And so we're merging these two things together to try to build a new category to encourage wearing of masks. And so we're creating an infused version with a moisturizer as one of the next product launches. So it has the protection, but it'll also provide a cosmetic benefit to the wearer. And that actually brings us back into our core business, but also helps us encourage people to wear masks long term. And so this is a product that we see having a long lifespan. And how do we continue to innovate and create products as many more masks come into the market, but consumers continually demand better and better products. And so for us, it's trying to maintain business as usual and continue to innovation and build good products as best we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. And Sarah, how will you continue to develop your equipment and resources to meet the ongoing demand for face masks?
Well, I think it's less about developing the equipment itself, but we take the learnings from the field, from what our service technicians learn every day, and transfer it to other players in the field to ensure that everyone can work their production properly to improve the output and the sustainability of the process. But what I think is more important is, and that is what Sebastian pointed out already, there is not one team thinking or one link of everyone in the supply chain working together to maybe even at some point close the loop and reuse the mask. But we need in the first place to establish a supply chain that works closely together and try to link machine builders and customers, but also go beyond that and also link them to suppliers of nonwovens materials, which we think are reliable and stable, to establish local and stable supply chains for whatever will come. Because what we have experienced is that once one country is affected mainly, we are facing problems in cross-border supply chains. So what we need to establish is a supply chain that works together, and what we can do and what we can contribute is to be a link and bring those parties together and use the network we have from the hygiene applications and the medical applications to find a common solution to fight COVID-19. I think more of working as a team than putting one technology or one supplier or one activity into the center. It's kind of like closing and bringing the team together.
Yeah. And Sebastian, when we spoke earlier this year, you said that Goetze Group was in talks with material manufacturers and chemical and fibre companies to discuss how European PPE can compete with that made in China in future. So what inroads have you made here?
Now, firstly, I need to agree with Sarah that cross-border talks are still difficult. Getting different disciplines, so raw material manufacturer, chemical manufacturers, melt blow manufacturers around the table, and also have the governments there to ensure the business model side is very hard. And we still are trying to be the spider in the web and to connect not only the textile organizations, but also the industry. And maybe also what we do today, this team could join, and you know, we need to bundle forces to be stronger together. You know, fighting China, I never would dare to claim that China is not capable to provide good PPE products. Before COVID-19, 90% of the global production of PPE products in the mass did come from China. And we exported to China by a reason, because we needed to do it somewhere else. Nobody in Europe was willing to do it. But what we learned during this pandemic was that there was a gold rush ongoing. Suddenly we had to deal with a lot of partners and players in the market we didn't know, and we did learn that we cannot trust on one supply country. But for me, the biggest question is, and also if we leave beside the end consumer, if they want to wear a mask or not, the drivers in the industry and also the ones who will decide if these European or American initiatives will last are the buying organizations in hospitals, in healthcare. So it's the governments who in the end decide if a secure supply chain or a sustainable or a closed circular PPE supply is a buying decision, or if it is again price. And what we see today is that during the pandemic, price went sky high, it's going down, it's coming almost to a normal level. But the buying organizations are looking to the Chinese prices again and saying, hey, but that's what we paid before the pandemic. And if you then come with arguments saying, okay, we have European production, we have European labor, we have to follow certain governmental rules, we have the proper certification, and they don't listen to these arguments. It's just, yeah, sorry, I'm a buyer. I have my Excel file, and end of the year, I want to achieve my bonus. So I don't care about sustainability or securing the supply chain because that's governmental. And then governments are saying, yeah, but the healthcare systems are privatized, so they need to provide their own goods. So everyone is blaming the other. And in the end, what Sarah mentioned, and also what Mike and Jordan mentioned, there is no unity in how to fight this pandemic. And I think this is really the crucial point. And on the long run, yes, we can compete against the price discussion. And we already did prove with innovations, and as Jordan described what he did, what Mike did, we did see first materials that can be a substitute to melt-blown, that enlarge the shelf lifetime 3 times of an FFP2 mask. So there are good developments ongoing. But end of the day, if price is the only decision-making point, then all these initiatives will fade away in the next 2 years. We will see a lot of bankruptcies in this area. In Germany, I don't know if it's in the European or even international media, there are a group of suppliers to the German government fighting to get paid. Also there is a big mess ongoing. So, end of the day, we need to find business models that can come up and support these new supply chains.
Yeah, definitely. And in conclusion, I kind of wanted to discuss all your future plans and goals. So starting with you, Mike, what else would Vita Group like to achieve when it comes to the face coverings production and standardisation?
I think to play our part however we can in driving that standardisation to get greater clarity for manufacturers and consumables, but also to come back to this environmental issue. I know it's a hard one. The latest report that I read said there's 129 billion face masks being used every month. And if they're all single use, like we've heard, or had to be changed every 3 to 4 hours, like we've discussed today, that number could be even higher. So have something that's safe, that is workable, that is reusable, and eventually recyclable, which can be designed into a product development. I think that's really important, and that's very hard, has many challenges. But I think ultimately, with the amount of waste that this mask wearing is going to generate, we have to find a solution to that as an industry.
Yeah, definitely. And Jordan, I suppose you have, with your face masks being reusable, you kind of have a little bit of a competitive edge there. So that's great that you're going down that line. And so how will you kind of continue to develop the masks? I know you've mentioned, potentially merging the wellness benefits with the masks. So what progress have you made further with that regards?
Yeah, I think we look at it from the consumer compliance part of the question is, yes, we can sell a product, but will a consumer wear it? And ultimately for us, as trying to have an impact on COVID-19, we're trying to get as many people as possible to wear masks, because we firmly believe that will reduce the spread of COVID. And so for us, it's how do you create products or think about products or market products in a different way where you can get more general consumers to wear them. So it's things like addressing some of the key concerns. I alluded to it earlier. Well, it's going to be bad for my skin. It's going to dry out my skin. We've all seen nurses with huge red or bruising or scars on their nose or on their ears. So how do you make masks more comfortable? How do you make masks more breathable? How do you make masks moisturize or provide an acne benefit to the skin, all while not compromising on filtration, on antimicrobial, on fit on the face? So we're really doing this dance between consumer compliance and still providing a filtration benefit where it's going to have a positive impact on COVID. And we're going to continue to do that as long as this pandemic stays around, which hopefully is not too much longer. But as long as it's around, we'll continue to push innovation as best we can.
Mm-hmm. And Sarah, I know that Herman has been working with several companies to support their switch to PPE and face mask production. So are you continuing to see a lot of inquiries here from other companies?
Yes, there are still a lot of or a high demand, a high order entry still. But what I see, and this is kind of going along with what Jordan just mentioned, we kind of have to find the level between consumer convenience or wearer convenience and filtering performance. And we see the first wave of demands was more of a generic, we have to find a fast solution. And now we go more into those topics that we just touched, like sustainability, consumer comfort, improving the breathing habits, but still filtering at a convenient or reliable level. So we do still see that. We also see that our normal business goes back to some kind of pre-corona levels. It's a new normality, I would call it. It's not normality yet. We still try to improve by running trials in the lab to improve the combination of the layers to increase the customer or the consumer convenience and still have a good product and bring the parties together to improve what Sebastian said, the common approach, and support also the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And Sebastian, what's next for the Fight COVID-19 Consortium? Do you have any other goals in mind that you'd like to achieve?
Now, I think what we discussed already today, getting this unity, working on industry standards, that's the next step. In the first step, we did the fast ramp up of immediate support. The next goal was the automatization of production. I think within 2 months from now, we have enough automated supply all over Europe. Certification was a hurdle, but that's also covered with most of our clients. And as Gertie is a consulting company with a long track record in the textile industry, we see our biggest challenge and the next thing we need to develop is how can we make this value change working for the companies involved? So how can they make a long-term business out of this? How do they get a return on the investments they did? And that's where we are currently talking with the national but also European textile organizations, material supply, machine building companies to see, okay, what can we do better? How can we get more sustainability into the whole PPE industry, more innovation? And yeah, that's where we still try to be kind of the spider in the web and connect everything with everyone.
Yeah, of course. That's been a really good discussion. Thanks everyone for sharing your insights into what is such an important topic. And I'm sure there is still a lot of developments to come from the PPE and face mask market. So we'll continue to keep a close eye on it. And be sure to visit wtin.com to discover all the latest news and updates. But for now, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.